Last week of Power Rankings and the last week of the regular season. 2 spots left open for grabs in the playoff race. Hey, how are you, folks? Jason Horowitz, CBSSports.com, writer Larry Dobrow. Glad to be with you here. Power Rankings today is September 29th. The season ends this weekend. And Larry, you know, heading into this week, you've got the Yankees as number 1, where they've been for the last 3-4 months. When you look at the teams that are going to the playoffs, who presents the biggest challenge for the Yankees?
Well, I mean, there are a couple of ways you can look at it. On one hand, the Red Sox series between the Yankees and Red Sox would be the biggest headache of all time. There's hype. You know, this weekend the Yankee fans are jumping up and down and crowing like, well, we swept the Red Sox in September. Yeah, but Jason Bay sat out a game. You missed Josh Beckett. You know, there are a lot of mitigating factors. So I don't think the difference between those two teams is anywhere near as much as a certain subset of the baseball fan population might think. The Angels, you know, they're historically the team that's given the Yankees the biggest headache. You know, they run, they make contact. You know, the Yankees are so bad defensively. Any team that puts the ball in play very often, you know, Yankees have a problem with it and everything. So you got that, and let's be honest, you know, as bad as the Tigers have been playing, you go in there with Verlander and Edwin Jackson, and you've got a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, a very small shot based on the way the team is hitting, fielding, base running, talking, and everything.
Pitching the last week or so.
Yeah,
That's
the pitching is falling apart, but, you know, I mean, it's a 5-game series. Anything can happen.
They got to get by the Twins, which is going on as we
right
speak.
Now.
A doubleheader here on Tuesday, and they've got 2 more games this week, and we'll get more on them in a sec. I want to take a look at your top 5 here for the last week of the regular season, and the Yankees are still number 1, and you've got the Angels and the Red Sox right there, and so you've got the AL having the better teams. Dodgers, you've got ahead of the Cardinals, and most likely LA will have the home field advantage throughout the NL part of the postseason. But when you look at St. Louis, are they your team to beat coming out of the NL because of the pitching they have?
Well, you know, we've talked about it a couple weeks now. You love those 3 starters. I mean, Adam Wainwright probably is going to wind up winning the Cy Young Award because voters like a nice shiny win total, and he's going to have 20 by the time the season's out. On the other hand, you look at their bullpen right now. Ryan Franklin was Houdini through the first 4 months of the season. Now he's kind of fallen apart. I mean, you know, 1 or 2 bad starts, again, they go under pretty quickly. What I like about the Dodgers is that they do have that bullpen depth. They do have people in the bullpen that miss bats. They've got a terrific lefty in George Sherrill. They've got a little bit of depth there. The Phillies, who knows? I mean, right now, Joe Blanton's their best starter. You know, they can't do anything in the bullpen. Any lead that's after 7 innings is not safe.
Right.
So, you know, the NL right now, I think it's a long way of saying that whoever gets lucky is going to the World Series. And it's a cop-out. It's the worst cop-out you can do, but it's pretty much what it looks like right now.
We'll do a playoff power rankings next week, but real quickly, there's 2 other things, because one of the teams that could get there, and it's a team that, you know, you've been saying all along, watch out for the Atlanta Braves. Watch out for the Atlanta Braves. And heading into today, they are 2 games behind the Colorado Rockies. I didn't think it would take this long for me to get back and get on your bandwagon, but it has. They've won 7 in a row heading into Tuesday. Do you think they're going to complete this comeback and overtake Colorado for the wild card?
Well, I mean, odds are against them. You know, you're only you're 2 games behind. You know, it's a lot to make up in 1 week. You know, a lot has to go right. The Braves have to keep winning. You know, the Rockies are pretty much going to have to fall off a cliff.
Got to lose at least 2.
They got to lose at least 2. And let's be honest, this weekend, if you're the Dodgers, you know, you're not going to be playing to protect the game's competitive integrity. You're going to be playing to line yourself up as well as possible for the playoffs. So Colorado might have a little bit of an easier time over the weekend than they might otherwise. What the Braves are doing, I mean, you know, it's too bad they, you know, didn't wake up until like the 3rd week of the season. You know, they were so terrible at first. They didn't hit at all until really a couple weeks ago. And now look at them. They've got the same run differential as the Phillies do, essentially. I think they're only 5 runs separate them. This is a great team. I mean, who wants to face that pitching in the playoffs? Nobody. It doesn't matter who you have hitting.
And that certainly could be an issue because they wouldn't play the Phillies. They would play the Cardinals in that first series, wherever that goes. I said we come back to the Tigers and the Twins, and we are right now because you have to, even though of all those teams we're talking about for the playoffs, these 2 are probably the worst. Is it possible that the winner of this division, well, let's say if the Tigers win the division, at the end of the season you'd have them lower on your power rankings than the Twins, even if they were to get into the playoffs?
Probably, unless there's some kind of a sweep this week. I mean, you know, right now, obviously, all the hype is towards the Twins. They played pretty well over the last 2 weeks. It's a
typical
3
September
weeks.
for Minnesota.
Typical September for Minnesota. All of a sudden, they start putting it together, and their little intangiblicious players like Nick Punto start having big hits out of nowhere, you know. But for the most part, the Tigers, I mean, you could make an argument right now that they might not be one of the 7 best teams in the AL. I mean, certainly the Yankees, Red Sox, and Angels, the 3 other playoff teams, are a lot better. You can make an argument for the Rays. You can make an argument for the Rangers. You could possibly make an argument for the A's, the Mariners, the Twins. I mean, this is a terrible baseball team right now. But, hey, the White Sox were a terrible baseball team in 2005, and the Cardinals were a terrible baseball team in 2006. And, you know, pennants fly forever.
And the Tigers were a terrible baseball team at the end of '06 and made the playoffs and the World Series against that Cardinals team who only won 83 games in the regular season. For Power Rankings, check out the entire list here last week of the regular season, and we'll do a playoff version next week. For Larry Dobrow, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care, folks.